Welcome back to the Senate Government Operations Committee meeting of Wednesday, January 29th. We're joined by Tucker Anderson. We're going to talk, he's going to be here for a while this afternoon. We're going to talk first about what is hopefully going to appear on our calendar on Friday, assuming everything else is in place, and that is H78, which I just call the Australian ballot bill. And we did take some testimony last week. We heard from the Secretary of State's office. But again, for those of you just joining us, this was something that was identified as something that the Secretary of State's office and within that, the Elections Division really wanted us to spend a lot of time on and quickly to get it passed before town meeting day. And I agreed that to the best of my ability, that's what we would do. So I think I understand about the bill, but Tucker may be able to give us a little bit more detail on that. And then at 2:30, we're going to switch over to the executive order, which we again took some testimony on, but we're going to talk to, I think, 6 different witnesses about that, including Tucker, this afternoon. And so welcome in and thank you for coming in. As I understand it, it has now reached the third reading today in the House. And assuming that there is a rule suspension to immediately message it to us, the old adverb forthwith. I think it's an adverb. It's not an adjective, it's an adverb, I believe. Anyway, I think it'll get on our calendar for notice tomorrow, and then we'll take it up on Friday. So if you can let us know where it is, how quickly we might be talking about it, and basically what it does.
Sure. So good afternoon, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. Great place setting there for the bill. The bill number is H78 for those who are not aware that it has been assigned a number now. The bill has passed out of the Committee on Government Operations and Military Affairs. It was sent to the floor. It was passed on second reading yesterday. It is up for third reading on today's House calendar at 3 o'clock. So I'll be talking about the bill as it was introduced coming out of House Government Operations, pending any possible amendments on third reading this afternoon. The background issue here is around what has come to be known in maybe just the last couple of weeks as a hybrid method of voting at annual meetings. Under current law on 17 VSA section 2680 and subsection B, there's language that authorizes municipalities to vote to adopt the Australian ballot system for their annual meetings. So that is the secret ballot system as opposed to voting for officers from the floor. Some municipalities, and you will likely hear from this if you hear from other witnesses, have adopted a system where they vote for some officers by Australian ballot and others are elected from the floor. And the issue is that under a strict interpretation of the language in 17 VSA 2680 subsection B, that is not permitted. It is an all or nothing structure. You either vote for your officers by Australian ballot or you vote for your officers from the floor. So H78, as it is on the House calendar for third reading this afternoon, would propose to allow municipalities to elect any or all of their officers using the Australian ballot system. And that one small change of adding the words any or all will allow these hybrid methods of electing officers to continue and be valid under Vermont's election laws. I don't know if you want to hear the contents of the bill. It's very easy to describe the 2 operative sections. The first section amends 17 VSA section 2680 and subsection B to add that any or all qualifier, and then in new subdivisions to require specific language to be used in the future for any municipality that is going to vote under this particular subsection to elect any or all officers. And there's two options. One option which allows the mixed method of voting, and then the second option which is for all officers to be elected by Australian ballot.
Senator White.
Thank you, Chair Palmer. You answered my question right there. Thank you. I just have one question, and I thought I might address Senator Hurt. Do you know what it means when a bill is underlined? Do you know what it means? Okay, you've followed like what the changes are versus, so like in the bill, when we're talking about the underlying pieces, that's new language versus, okay. I just wanted to make sure because I realized this might be the first real bill that we're actually walking through as a committee.
Yeah, I've done some research.
Okay.
I went home with a stack of bills like this.
I guess that's what I'm saying is if it's underlined, that means it's new.
It's correct.
So thank you.
And each town's gonna be different. They're gonna vote on, the select board's gonna vote or whatever, how they wanna do their thing. Our town, rural Orange County, Thompson, they always choose to elect them by four. They don't choose to do it this one. So, for national, yes, they don't off to Australia back, but for state, they can, for local, they also.
And is that the preferred reference? I use voice vote, but maybe it's not the same thing.
So they're the same thing. And when I was a younger attorney in the office, and even as a law clerk, I would break out the Latin viva voce, voting with your voice. So saying voice vote is acceptable.
From same thing as from the floor. Okay.
Yes. And there's lots of interesting additional procedures that come into play when you're voting from the floor instead of using the Australian ballot
And
system.
somebody might make a motion to do a paper ballot.
That is exactly what I was thinking of. And I will say that when this issue first came up, there was a little bit of confusion in the discussions around this, specifically because of the section that allows paper ballot to be requested during a floor vote. Yeah.
Yes, a voice
Vermont
vote
is
is turned into a paper
very
ballot.
interesting. This committee used to discuss a lot, a book called Real Democracy, which is like a research paper by Frank Bryan, former professor at the University of Vermont, who studied the complexity of Vermont's local
He was
elections.
a very good professor.
He is my neighbor. He's a very good neighbor.
Okay.
So, section 2 of the bill contains session law. And there are 4 essential things that this session law is accomplishing. In subsection A, it deals with the upcoming 2025 annual meetings, and it blesses the election of officers and any vote to elect officers by Australian ballot under this section. In the case that there is any challenge to a town's ability to do so because you are passing this amendment to 17 VSA 2680 at the time that these meetings are being warned. Subsection B looks back retrospectively, and it does those 2 things, but for any vote that was held by a municipality in the past, relying on 17 VSA 2680 subsection B to either vote to use the Australian ballot for the election of some, but not all of their officers. And then, of course, there is the waving of the legislative wand to say that any election that was held under those prior provisions, 17 VSA 2680 sub B, that those also cannot be challenged because of this shift in the law or because of reliance on the prior provisions.
So in essence, it acts as a grandfather clause, regardless of the previous method of
Yes,
election.
for this annual meeting and for the decisions that were made in the past that relied on the current language of 17 VSA 2680B. And I will share it with the committee when you receive the as passed by the House version. But this transitional provision was modeled off of language that was used in 1981, Act number 239 in section 40, which grandfathered and blessed annual meetings in 1982 because it was the adjourned section. Because this same subsection was being amended at that time. So I had some great assistance from the Legislative Council attorneys in 1982 who drafted that transitional provision. I was able to do a lot of cribbing there.
They had less interruptions in their day.
And I assume, since it says on passage that if it reaches the governor's desk and it's signed,
It's effective as soon as
for the upcoming town meeting, it will take effect. Okay.
as soon as it is signed or allowed to pass without a
Without-
signature,
Yeah.
or if vetoed, passed by override of veto.
I haven't heard anything from anyone that indicates that,
Outlining the ways that.
and I don't know how you remember all those references to section numbers.
He sleeps with the statutes under his pillow.
Do you have a question, Senator?
Because I'm sleeping in my thoughts.
That's right. It's
I do, I think. So back when I was in the House, we did some work around this and had some questions around moving to Australian ballots and how the vote could, so basically, if I recall, do you know where I'm going? It looks like you're reading my mind.
Yeah.
I am reading your mind, and subsection B is not the only pesky subsection in 17 VSA section 2680. The most pesky at the time that the temporary authority during COVID for municipalities to use the Australian ballot system without a vote of the municipality was that this section states that you can't use the Australian ballot system at the same election where the municipality votes to approve the use of the Australian ballot system. And the reason that was a sticking point at the time was that the General Assembly had granted authority for use of the Australian ballot system, and municipalities were then putting the vote to approve the Australian ballot system on the mail ballots. And that was in conflict with the express terms of 17 VSA section 2680, and I think it's sub G or H.
So my question is, now that we're creating meetings in which both of these systems could be used at the same time, are we now again in conflict with you can't vote to use Australian ballot at a meeting in which Australian ballot is used?
No, because in order to use this section, you have to have held a vote to approve the system. So this language in sub B, for any municipality that hasn't already voted to approve, they're gonna have to hold a vote to approve these.
And then subsequently, if they were going to change it, so say they adopt this new, some things are Australian ballot and some things are from the floor. If they were to subsequently decide they wanted to change that, are they now in conflict with that subsection because they're voting for Australian ballot at a meeting where Australian ballot is used?
So in order for them to use the hybrid system period, they would have to vote under subsection B to apply the Australian ballot system to their elections.
And so that doesn't apply in changing which elections the Australian ballot. So if they went from the hybrid to the full, it could still happen. Do you see where I see the possibility for?
Yes. Again, this is specific to the question that would be asked here is specific to the election of the officers. So if they are a municipality in this hypothetical situation that is voting to elect some, but not all of their officers by Australian ballot, that would not impact, it's either subsection C or D that covers public questions, which is where they would ask this, for example, which is also a some or all, any or all provision. I do not think that there would be a conflict based on the hypothetical scenarios you're setting up, but if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be re-educated as I have multiple times on the issue of voting to use the Australian ballot system using the Australian ballot system. There's always a little bit of hurdling that I have to do in my mind.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. And I just remember spending so much time doing the mental gymnastics around all of the possible circumstances in that scenario. We're now introducing a new one. So I just wanted to make sure
Yes.
we did the mental vaults we needed to.
It would seem prudent if I were a town manager to have this vote immediately as you open the town meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
because I think one of the illustrations of this not working was with the moderator vote, where lots of people thought moderators were done by voice. And in fact, it's it's on the ballot, or may not be. I mean, it depends on what you've chosen, but I believe that was one of the early discussions, is there was confusion about moderator.
I remember
wrong, or
moderator
was that right?
confusion as well.
Yeah. Are you the moderator in Stars?
I'm not.
You
I have gleefully avoided,
But you would be an excellent
This would
moderator.
be great.
Oh, yeah, no, they're-
Stop trying to butter him up.
I'm gonna actually suggest Ellen Kalen nominate him.
I don't think Tucker wants that. Maybe that's not a gift.
Okay.
So is everybody clear about the path that we're gonna take here? For Senator Bianski's benefit, we understand that it's up for third reading today and that the House Chair will then ask for suspension of the rules to move it through all remaining stages of the passage, and it will be transmitted here forthwith. Which means that it'll be on notice tomorrow and we'll take it up on Friday. And I think given the testimony we've already heard, we will have Lauren Hibbert if possible, or someone from the Secretary of State's office testify again for the record that they completely support this. Emma Schuldice will also be in to indicate her support. And then we'll just take a vote on Friday. And I will ask for suspension of the rules to
Yep, that's what I
move it through.
expected.
Yes.
And no. I assume if for some reason any of us hear from people who are concerned, we'll make space for them to speak loud.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not a done deal until we vote, but we've
I haven't.
kind of plowed the field a couple times and
Yeah.
it seems as though we got a good crop.
My only question was who's reporting the bill, or who would you like to have report?
Well, that's a fair question. I don't mind doing it myself. I asked the Representative Byron if he could give me his floor report. He was going to say, hey, by the way, here's something I didn't expect that came up. If indeed it did, I don't know that there were any questions on the floor during second reading. But if you,
I
if
will not
others-
prepare a full report. I think you're gonna lead us
I
well.
think you are our chair, you should do the first bill,
Yeah,
all right,
I like it.
with
particularly if you've got.
Senator Hart in mind, there will come a time in both committees.
Yeah.
Where you'll have your first bill to report.
Exactly.
I like to think that we keep it as easy a bill as we can for you to report. That it's not a terribly complicated or one that you might get questions on, but yeah, I'll be glad to do it. That's the consensus.
Senator Clarkson.
Cool,
Okay,
we are.
do we need to take another literally 3-minute break before we have our next?
Gosh, the whole
come in?
administration is coming in.
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
Right.
So again, 3 minutes, please. And we'll go off and